My name is Durga Prasad. I'm the solution architect. I work predominantly in the public sector business, so especially work with governments, education, and non-profits. I hope you're able to see my screen. Okay, so what I'll do is for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to spend time in explaining, from a cloud concepts to the why cloud is important for public sector, especially the government, and also a few examples as to what are the top workloads the customers are actually using nowadays. And then we'll open up for questions, and we'll take it from there. So just want to take a couple of steps back, as just to give you a difference between a traditional infrastructure and the AWS cloud. So you're probably already aware that the traditional infrastructure, how it looks like with all the servers, routers, and all that. So basically, you pay for everything upfront, and nothing is on demand. There are significant long-term contracts as well in the traditional model, and you undergo a lot of planning process. You guesstimate a lot, and to identify what needs to be bought, and how do we set up and how do we plan that. But at the end, you probably end up in either underutilizing the infrastructure that you procured and set up, or maybe you would need some more information or some more resources beyond what you actually planned. However, with the cloud computing, so it's really going to be turning the things on and as you need and use them, and or no longer than that. So basically, you pay for what you use. It kind of gives you that flexibility in terms of how you want to pay, and instead of planning and seeking funding to pay for all of that equipment, you can focus on building the apps and services to accomplish your mission, to meet your customers' needs and on timely basis, and be able to change when they change, and be able to start small based on demand, and you can scale with your needs, and give your developers the tools they need at their fingertips to manage your IT needs and advance your mission. So basically, it kind of gives you that both the elasticity as well as the agility for you to be able to respond to your needs or customer needs, and also give that flexibility from a pay-as-you-go model. So when all of these are combined, you will actually have a self-service infrastructure. So the immense possibility that you would have to be able to go beyond, how you're going to procure a server is going to be phenomenal, and how you're going to be using certain services to be able to provide the citizens centric services will be great. So as coming back to the AWS, this is the Gartner's Magic Quadrant slide. Gartner is our industry research. The organization studies the how it's been set up, and then in that Magic Quadrant, Gartner says that AWS is positioned highest in the execution and furthest in the vision within the leaders quadrant, which is on the top right corner. So it's a testimony that the customers have trust on us and continue to use and benefit from the services that are being used. So why does the cloud matter in the public sector? So like in many countries, even in India, we always have these world-changing projects or citizen-centric engagement and services, and there are some research and education projects that require significant IT investments to be able to provide that. So technology is one of the key factors or key enablers in a lot of the government projects nowadays, as you already seen and are being experienced. It plays a significant role there. So all the key issues in the traditional infrastructure kind of apply to the government departments as well. And there are a lot of governments today across the globe, education institutions or non-profit or any other commercial or enterprise organizations are leveraging cloud and taking the benefit from them, in terms of how they're actually leveraging it to deliver the services better, whether to the citizens or to their existing customers. So here I have, there are millions of active customers every month in AWS, globally. And since the launch of our Mumbai region in India in June 2016, we have more than 120,000 active customers, including Tata Motors, NDTV, Feature Group, or Shopperstop. They have adopted the AWS cloud for a broad range of applications. Something like e-governance applications, or website hosting, or big data analytics, or mobile applications, or e-commerce applications, or mission critical ones. So these are all ones being, or even critical applications like such as SAP or Oracle or Microsoft, among other use cases. Similarly, in the public sector as well, there are several public sector customers in India. That I think one of the logos is not present here is the Andhra Pradesh State Skill Development Corporation, or Center for Science and Environment, or CSE. So these are some of the customers who are listed here, but there are many customers who are currently being using the cloud, especially AWS, and Vedantu, the online tutoring, or Byju's, or other large educational institutions and edtech startups are currently using it. So it probably thinking about what is so different about AWS, and why is it so important, or why is it sets apart. So the first and foremost thing is the experience. So we are in the cloud computing business since 2006. And we've been building and refining our services. So there's no compression algorithm for experience. So you have to start managing it and have that experience to manage such large infrastructures to provide the reliable service to the customers. That is very, very important. And at AWS, we have been continually expanding our services to support virtually any workload, or a cloud workload. And since 2011, we've launched more than more services. In fact, we have more than 100 services that are available today, and that's really key. So customers actually have selected AWS because we have proven ourselves committed to customer success. So our services are more mature than any other platform, and our portfolio continues to scale to meet the needs of the diverse and the growing needs of our customers. So as a subsidiary of Amazon, AWS thinks very long term. So this benefits our customers so that we bring this value to them. So because we have such a breadth and depth of services, we provide greater agility and flexibility than any on-premise provider or cloud competitor can offer. This is enabled by our global footprint that we have is 18 regions with 52 availability zones so far globally, and within India we have this one Mumbai region already there and being used. And we offer a very transparent pricing model. We have offered so far the 64 proactive price reductions to date since 2006. This is because we are committed to doing what is right for our customers. And I also want to highlight the partners network that we have, our ecosystem that attracts the best partners in the market that have been using us for a long time. Our customers can leverage this partner network. We have more than 4,200 software listings on our marketplace, be it antivirus, be it firewall security, or business applications, or domain-specific applications. In fact, in the last year alone, in 2017, our partner network has added 10,000 partners only in 2017. That's how it's kind of growing there. So just to give you a little more information on the global infrastructure that we're talking about, I talked about there are 18 regions out there, and in each region there are several availability zones, more than one availability zone. So we have 52 availability zones, and in 190 countries the customers are using AWS services, and we have points of presence in 113 points of presence in about 24 countries. Within India, we have several other locations apart from Mumbai where the points of presence exist and can be leveraged with the content delivery network, or with the DNS service, or with the direct connect, where you can have a point-to-point connectivity as well with your own data center. So just to double click on the AWS, what is really region and why not it is a data center. So the region is nothing but is a combination is of more than one availability zone. So each availability zone is like isolated, separated, but still connected, with a low latency network. And these are really independent from one another. Conceptually, these are like data centers, but that are actually physically separated there. So these low latency network ones will actually give you the ability to be able to run and build your architecture in such a way that even if one availability zone is not available, you can still be able to run your infrastructure without any interruptions there. And you can have those HA architecture built into your infrastructure because of this kind of an architecture there. So that's about the AZs, and how it is being implemented. Now, one of the reasons, this is one reason, of course, one of the or in fact the number one reason why customers choose AWS Cloud is the agility, the ability for the customers to respond to their market needs or the customers' needs. How it actually kind of helps there. So, for example, if governments, for example, used to take about weeks, sometimes even months to procure any infrastructure that you would want. However, with AWS, you can actually start thinking about, adding some new development environment, new production environments in simple, in minutes, or you can even add another region, if you want to do it like an education customer. You can add 1,000 servers in minutes, or you can remove 1,000 servers if you don't want it. You only be paying what you need, and you don't be paying anything more than what you are intended to do it. So agility is one of the other factors, or in fact number one factors why customers are looking at cloud, and especially the AWS. So I want to spend some more time on the security and compliance as well. So basically, this AWS security has a lot of tools. So we make actually a wide range of security tools and features available to you, our customers, depending on the security of the application or the content you choose to deploy. AWS and its our partners over 700 tools and features that we actually provide to meet the security objects. These tools mirror the familiar controls you deploy within your own on-premise environment, like your identity management system, or firewalls, or your load balancers, or your ports. These would actually give you a lot of flexibility on how we're going to be managing it. So whether it's data encryption tools, or information security, or infrastructure security monitoring, so it gives you a lot of the scope for you to be able to audit or monitor what is happening within the infrastructure, and then be able to monitor and optimize in an environment if you find anything can be improved on those as well. So a lot of tools available for you to be able to connect them, and some of them already have some free tier options where you can, if you want to test some, you can do it today itself. You can actually open up an account and then start using and test out, because there could be some free credits available for you within the environment for you to be able to test it and evaluate that. More importantly, on the security aspect, to ensure that we are as secure as possible and to meet the needs of the most of the security sensitive organizations, like in India, not only do we actually rely on our own internal audits, but we do rely on proven industry standard audits as well. In fact, in India, AWS is the first global provider to achieve full empanelment for the delivery of the public cloud services by India's, our mighty Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and also successfully completed the STQC audit for cloud services delivered from the AWS Mumbai region. So that means the government agencies and statutory bodies or nationalized banks or within India can now use AWS for their workloads. So AWS computing environments are also continuously being audited for ISO 27001 or 27017, which is for information security, and 27018 for personally identifiable information. So these are all being continuously audited. So even in every country, we ensure that we actually get audited and make sure that we provide the services according to the local norms there. And beyond these security compliance certifications, we do provide the customers with those, the call logging and configuration management tools for the customers to build their own governance model, so that you can actually, have a log and review, or just make sure that whatever the changes are happening, you have the complete visibility into or how the infrastructure is being set up there. You as a customer, while you have your own partner managing it. Now, with AWS, it's about the shared responsibility as well. So there's the shared responsibility, to accomplish the security and compliance objectives in our cloud. There are some elements that AWS takes responsibility for, and others that customers must address. AWS responsibility, typically the separation of physical and logical access, and we rely on our customers to retain ownership of control of their own content, which can be stored, within India, and make sure that it's there where they store, according to the requirement. So security of the cloud is taken care by AWS, and security in the cloud is something that customers are responsible for. This way, there is always a balance of how you manage your own content within the environment. This we call it as a architecture slide, so I don't want to talk everything on this, but the cloud is not something that is just a compute, CPU, memory, and some instances that we provide that you use. So this cloud is beyond that. We virtually, as I mentioned here, like we offer more than 100 services. We have the broadest collection of services available from any cloud provider. Foundation services across compute, storage, security, networking, and they offer more flexibility in the architecture. And we also have other full spectrum of options to meet the most price to performance kind of a scenario. So you can have artificial intelligence or machine learning or analytics or dev tools or IoT. So depending on the kind of scenario that you would be using, you can pretty much use any one of these, and these would help expand your existing IT infrastructure that you already have, or you can start, if you want to start a brand new workload or brand new simple website, then you can do that as well. 90% of these services or offerings that we have are actually based on the customer's feedback. So we listen to the customer and we put that back and into our development, and then that's how these kind of portfolios are actually came out with. So in fact, even the recent edition of this enterprise workloads like SAP or Oracle are also the reasons, because the customers actually wanted these on that. So with that, so I'll just spend a couple of more minutes, like the 5 popular scenarios typically customers go for cloud. It could be dev and test environment where you want to start your own development environment, quick test, and 3 months you're done, and then you're done with the project, so you don't have to procure environment, use it for 3 months, and don't know what to do with that procured resources. So dev and test is one widely used use case for cloud. The second one is storage. A lot of times what happens is that you kind of expand into, you may be running out of your backup or archival systems, and you would like to expand your storage to a cloud. Maybe it could be a disaster recovery plan, or it could be archival solution where your tape drives are increasingly going to be very sensitive for the failure. So and then storage will give you a more redundant and reliable location in the cloud. And you can have these replications happening within the data centers on premise or onto the cloud, or sometimes you may want to provide the content closest to the end user, and then you can use the cloud, which can actually take the help of the CDNs and cloud content delivery networks to to provide that content from the closest location. The third scenario that is disaster recovery. So you can actually build any kind of a disaster recovery scenario, whether it's a cold or a warm or a hot site kind of a DR for your on-premise mission critical application. You can run it. So if you are building a DR solutions within the environment within AWS, you can have a near zero kind of a setup that you can build. Or if you wanted to expand your current data center on-premise to the cloud, you can also build that from disaster recovery point of view. This way, when something happens, you always have the other one which is up and running and be able to there. And from a cost savings point of view, since depending on the scenario that you're choosing, you may want to turn them off until the situation comes with the need, or you can always run it in parallel, depending on what is your RPO and RTO, and how we can spin up there, spin up the disaster recovery setup on the cloud. Similarly for big data, so with the infrastructure that's required for certain workloads for you to run, whether you need the Hadoop clusters or whether you need some large scale, streaming have to be done, and then be able to, curate the data and be able to, do some a lot of good analytics. So you can leverage the already built infrastructure on the cloud so that you don't have to worry about a lot of it. So you will have both the flexibility and ease of use with the kind of offerings that you have in the cloud. So you could actually build everything from the scratch, that if you really want to, and do it on your own, or you can actually use one of the services like QuickSight, or when you can use some of the managed services out there on the cloud, that you don't have to worry about configuring on your own, but you can simply use that on that. So then the other one is the enterprise applications, which is like all your SAP or your Microsoft workloads or CRM, and all those kind of workloads can be deployed and managed on cloud, on AWS cloud, with a lot of reference architectures are available on how you can actually pretty much replicate what you've been doing it here, and there will be some significant cost savings simply because you have these elasticity and flexibility, and the scale up and scale and down will kind of give you that kind of advantage out there. Maybe one example could be that this is a time where other linking is required, and then a lot of the partner solutions where you have a lot of seasonal hit that comes up there, and then you may need extra workload that you need to really need to add. Or sometimes you in typical scenario, you probably would be using or customers would be using these sites maybe from morning 6 o'clock to evening 6 o'clock, or 9 o'clock to 9 p.m. So for 50% of the day or in a year, you probably would not even need such a large environment. So how do you kind of scale up and scale down, and how do you save costs on those? There are a lot of enormous cost savings depending on the kind of architecture that you're going for, especially when you're hosting it on cloud. So coming to the while we're talking about the popular cloud isn't really about all or nothing kind of a choice. So it's a journey where you can think of moving all your IT to the cloud, establish a hybrid environment with some infrastructure on premise and other applications in the cloud, or consider moving over workload by workload. You can move, we can set up, or you can just move only website today, or you can move only the storage, and then start thinking about how it is. For all customers, it's a journey, and you really do have many options, and how you can actually go with that. Almost every government customer operates in multiple scenarios. Some of them are completely on the cloud, or some of them are actually in the hybrid environment as well. So with that, so it's all about the choice. Pick the technology that delivers the right performance at the right price, and and there are a lot of guidance on how we can actually self-service manage, or there are a lot of partner community who could be a technology partners or consulting partners like Mithi, could be helping out in how the whole cloud can be taken as an advantage and to your own business needs, so that you can focus on the things that are important to you, and let the cloud takes care of a lot of the undifferentiated heavy lifting. So with that, so I hope I was able to explain it to you what the cloud really and what it kind of gives you for government, especially. With that, I'll hand it over to Dimple to take up any question and answers from there.
Right. Thank you, Durga, for the presentation. I have shared a couple of questions with you. Uh, if you know, how do you ensure email data privacy on the cloud, and how do you ensure that CSP is not leaking out your data? That was the first question.
So securing the data in the cloud is actually important, both from a cloud service provider point of view and for the customer point of view. So from as I mentioned earlier, so being a CSP, we ensure that we are giving enough controls to the customers, as well as we have controls set up within our physical and logical layers, ensure that we taking care of that. In fact, the security compliance that we just talked about, information security, ISO 27001 or 27017 or 18, these are all related to the information security related and personally identifiable data information. So these are critical across the globe, industry-wide. Accepted ones are really important, and how the information is being stored and protected and given there. So we're certified on that, and it's not just about we are compliant on it. As I mentioned earlier, it's a shared security model where the content is actually owned by the customer. So he or she decides as to where the content has to be there, and in addition to that, we actually provide n number of tools to be able to protect the data for himself. Well, it could be encrypting the data in transit or at rest, or with the key management services or with the certificates. So we provide at every layer, we ensure that we give you enough tools, and on top of it, we actually provide enough guidance to you. We have our solution architects like me kind of provide you some guidance as to how you can protect your own data. And there are partner solutions, as I mentioned. There are n number of partners within our AWS marketplace you can leverage, from antivirus to the firewalls to the intrusion detection systems, and any layer that you would want to protect, then you can always have that. And so it's really the as I mentioned, it's a content is owned by the customer, and we actually have enough tools for us to be able to protect it at each layer, and we give you enough guidance and the tools for you to be able to protect that. So with that, uh, Ashok, would just want to see if you answer any other questions.
Yeah, so thanks Durga for those insights. So if you have any more questions, we would
So I have a few more questions which I would like to take up, Dimple. So I think there's one more question: is how to investigate a cloud data theft, and what kind of information will provide from you to law enforcement agency from investigation. So this is so as I said, we have a number of tools. We have this Cloud Trail, and we have a Cloud Watch logs. So the Cloud Trail really, the Cloud Watch logs really kind of gives you the logging information of whatever is happening in the activity. So you will have to enable those, and as well as the Cloud Trail is service which actually logs all the information about which API is being called and by when and by whom. So this information is helpful to you to be able to log the information. So every customer that was running are recommended to strongly recommended to run these at that one. So if for some reason that the information as such an incident happens, something that you can actually leverage these incidents and then can pass them on to the investigation agency to be able to take the next steps on it. You can also work with our support center. The support center will actually tell you based on your information what you have given, and if there is anything beyond that they could help, they will certainly be able to help you in providing it. And we have our team that can actually help you ensure that if there are any incidents happen, that they would actually be there to be help, provide that help. So now there is another question that comes: how does Amazon support educational organizations, research institutions, and does it offer something similar to another Google Education Cloud? And we are India's national research education network. And in case you do, how can the services be available by us? So we do have a few programs within the education sector. So you can reach out to us offline, and I'll be happy to share with you. But on a broader note, we have a program called AWS Educate, which is a program where the students and the education institutions can engage in and learning the cloud concepts, and then do some interesting stuff. So that's where we actually provide some lot of support. In fact, today I think there are a couple of examples where, in fact, APSSDC is one which is leveraging this, and there are several other examples where our team is working with the several other education institutions, and there are great stories out there. My email ID is here, so you're welcome to drop an email to me, and I'll be able to connect with you to the respective um, you know team there. There is one more question. Does AWS has its data center and the data recovery sites in India? Yes, we do have. We call it as a region. So we do. AWS does have a region within India. It's within in Mumbai. So within we call the region because we have more than one. We have two availability zones. Two availability zones constitute one region, and these availability zones are two separate physical locations with the discrete power and UPS and security and everything separate, connected with the low latency networks. And as far as the from a service levels and redundancy levels and the reliability aspects, you can certainly look at our website aws.amazon.com, or we can shoot an email to me, and I'll be happy to explain you anything specific that you're looking for on your question. So that's one. And then I think there's one more question on more. Okay, these are all questions to me, Ashok. So I'll pass on to you if anything comes to you. So as of now, I'll just take this. So more information on Mighty empanelment. So as I said, Mighty actually is our ministry body, which kind of introduced this Megharaj policy a few years ago, and then they've actually allowed the private cloud service providers to be empaneled so that the governments can can also start hosting their workloads there. So in last year, we are the first global service providers to be empaneled by the team, and the standards and testing, the STQC body actually audited the environment thoroughly, and based on the checklists given by the Mighty, then they are completed it successfully, and that's how the empanelment has been done. You can take a look at the the empanelment status on the Mighty website. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Now the other question was, what's the pricing? Pricing, is it monthly or daily? So depending on the service, but it's not really a monthly or daily. The pricing is mostly, if you take an example of compute for AWS services, then it is based on hourly. Hourly pricing is what has been given. So if you use it only for 2 hours, you'll be billed for only 2 hours. If you're not using it after that, then you will not be charged for it. And if you have a storage, then storage based on, there's an example called object storage, where if you store 1 KB, then you are charged for 1 KB file, and if it is 1 petabyte, you will be charged for the 1 petabyte. And you can choose the type of storage that you want based on the type of storage that you want, whether it could be for archival, it could be for large videos, or it could be for your transactional databases. You can choose the type of storage that you want, whether really high intensive applications or memory intensive applications. So these are all kind of choice that you can make, and your pricing is based on those. So you should look at aws.amazon.com, and there's a pricing information is listed in for each of the services, I encourage you to take a look at that, or shoot an email and I'll be happy to explain to you more. There is two more questions for me so far. So one is what are the strategy for disk to disk to cloud backup, and what are the charges for it? So this is a very specific question. So if you don't mind, just drop an email to me and I'll be happy to understand a little more on it. So basically, we do have certain, the backup, tools or application tools available. So if you want to, back up your entire, disks information to the cloud, then you can certainly do it. There is a storage gateway that you can actually use to replicate the data from on-premise to the cloud, or you can use any other third-party tool that supports your existing tape drive that you have, or if you have an existing backup in some folders, then we can certainly talk about a different strategy as to how you want to do it or how frequently you want to do it. And the data basically whatever the data you're storing in, is the storage is what you will be charged for, not for storing in. Data out is something that's going to be charged, but that's very minimal. Again, the pricing is online, and then you can take a look at that there on that. So so if there are any pricing questions, I would strongly recommend you to go on to the site, or do reach out to us, and we'll be happy to give you some more information about how it actually works. So you can leverage your current partner ecosystem, or you can directly start on your own as it's a self-service portal. So whichever way is going to work for you, depending on what organizations and what kind of workload you have multiple choices out there. And if you still want to know more clarity and have that information, so yeah, again, my email ID is there, kakdurga@amazon.com. So I'll be happy to answer that.